It's Compass FM, North Canterbury's community radio station. We love getting involved in the community. All sorts of things we get involved with our fingers in all sorts of different pies. Good morning, Allan Grigg, the Emergency Management Officer for the Hurunui District Council. How are you, Allan?
Kia ora, Kerry. I'm fine. And yourself?
I'm really, really good. Now, you've come on into Compass FM this morning to have a wee bit of a chat about what we need to do as far as being in the Hurunui to be ready for disaster when it strikes. And some of the personal things what have you done to be prepared?
Yeah, so I'm a civil defence person, have been all my life, been a volunteer for 19 years, so I'm really keyed into preparedness at home. And in fact, my wife used to think I was a bit crazy, and then the Christchurch quakes happened, and since then she helps me prepare. You know, we've got a generator at home, we've got the usual food and water, but planning for disasters is far more than food and water. It's about looking at the hazards that are around you. Some of us have to worry about tsunami, some of us have to worry about landslides or flooding. So to be properly prepared, you need to look at the hazards that are around us that can affect us, and then we need to sit down with our family or our household and talk about what will that look like if and when that happens to us, both at night when we're all at home, but more importantly during the day. You know, Mum and Dad might be at work, children at school, they're all in different locations. Something like an earthquake happens, phone communications go down, and then we can't talk to each other. We don't know where each other is, we don't know what they're going to do. So looking at and preparing for that means that we know what each is going to do. We've talked with the schools about what happens if those hazards happen. Yep. We know what Mum and Dad are going to do. Yep. And other loved ones. So that's the real key to being prepared for disaster.
It's just basically having a conversation.
Yeah, sitting down, figuring out what can get us, and then talking about what can we do now to reduce the impact of that, and what would we do when it happens. Okay,
so as far as personal preparedness is concerned, I mean, we've mentioned this and we'll continue to mention this every single day. The water, enough water for 3 days per person, 3 liters a day, is that right?
We've kind of changed that now with the advent of things like the Alpine Fault earthquake, which is going to affect the whole South Island, so we now recommend people prepare for at least a week, food and water enough for a week.
7 days?
At least 7 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you've got a family of 4, you're preparing for, 28 days worth of food.
That's the reality, yeah.
Okay.
And you know, at home I have a 200 litre tank that cost me, I think it might have been $70 or $80 at Bunnings. Yep. So that sits in the corner, strapped back so I won't tip over. Yep. And that's more than enough water for our entire family, including pets. We can't forget our pets and other stock.
Forget the pets. That's actually a really, really good idea. I'm sure that we'll be able to sort out something in North Canterbury as far as water containers are concerned. I actually have a chat to the team at McAlpines. They might be able to help give us some advice on that
I'm
as
sure
well.
They could, and maybe we could look at swinging some sort of a deal.
Let's try and organise that. I think that's actually a really, really cool idea. Allan Grigg is the EMO for the Hurunui District Council. You say know your hazards. In Hurunui, there is obviously there's flooding, there's landslides, there's all that sort of stuff. When you are in the Hurunui and you're a local, living there and wanting to get involved with civil defence, is it easy to do? How would you do that? Yeah,
certainly it's easy, and we've actually sectorised the Hurunui district into 9 key areas, and each one of those areas has a volunteer civil defence team. Some of them train monthly, some of them train bi-monthly, some only train 2 or 3 times a year. Each community decides for itself what it wants to do to be prepared, and I've always said to the communities when I go out and talk to them, you're going to get the civil defence you deserve.
Yes.
If you haven't put much in, it's going to be pretty chaotic on the day. If you put in the work, the training and the organising, your community's going to fare a lot better during a disaster.
That's absolutely stunning. Did I hear a Southland R in your?
Yeah, I do come from Southland, but it really is a myth. We don't roll our R's in Southland.
Of course we don't. Absolutely. So you've got these 9 groups, community groups, and they do solid training once a month sort of situation. That's actually a really good idea. Locals looking after locals.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've found in previous disasters that external people coming in is really, really great, but if they don't have the knowledge of the locals here to tell them what's really important to those communities and where things are, then it tends to get, or sometimes more damage than good can be done. So it's really important that outsiders coming in have locals to report to, who lead them and tell them what they need and where things are. That's really important.
That is actually really, really important. And is this an initiative that's new, like getting like the 9 local groups under training and that sort of thing? Has that happened in the past, or is this a wonderful initiative that's just new?
No, so it's been going on for decades, but certainly dropped away in the past few years with the challenges of COVID. A lot of people sort of looked inwards to themselves and their family units, keeping themselves safe. So obviously civil defence was operating in the background during COVID, but the things did drop away. So we're going through a real big revival period at the moment. Places like Culverden, Hardin Waikari, Waipara, Amberley are all reviving their teams and in some ways beginning again, but it always has been cyclical. People come, people go.
Yep.
They move, their life circumstances change, so they do come and go, so it's cyclical.
Yep. And to get in contact with one of these groups, the best thing to do would be to approach the Hurunui District Council?
Yeah, absolutely. Just ring the council or email the council and I'll get those messages. I'll make contact with you personally. We can talk with you about what you want to do, whether it's just some key tips about personal preparedness,
yep,
or whether you'd like to volunteer.
Yep.
We can certainly find a space for you either within civil defence or other local organisations.
Personal preparedness is probably the main thing that we need to get ourselves organised and get food and water ready for 7 days, considering the AF8, yes?
Yes, that's right. AF8, Alpine Fold 8, that's really, really important. And I must emphasise, food and water is not the sum total of your preparedness. That's a basic start.
Yep.
You are not prepared if that's all you've done.
Right. Medicines, documentation, looking after your pets, contact, communication, all of that sort of stuff.
How to turn off water, power. If you're on farms, most farmers tend to think that they're going to do really well. But if the farmer's not there or a tree falls on them during the disaster and a tank breaks or pipes break, does somebody else on the farm know how to fix that stuff? So it pays to look at all of those sorts of things too.
It almost sounds like a toolbox talk at dinner time around the family and around the farm at smoko time.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't have to be hard. It's just common sense looking at what can get us and what can we do about it both now and when it happens.
Allan Grigg, Emergency Management Officer for the Hurunui District Council. Thank you. Oh, you've got one more thing?
Yes, almost forgot,
yes,
Kerry.
Yes.
We're running the Youth and Emergency Services program in Hammer Springs in early July. I think it's the second week of the school holidays.
Yep.
So that's where 20 to 25 youth will spend a week with emergency services, learning how to do the sorts of things emergency services do, culminating in a big exercise at the end where they'll get to apply those skills.
Yep.
And then they volunteer for 3 months with a chosen emergency service.
In one of those 9 groups.
Yeah, that's the YES program.
That's absolutely fantastic. Allan Grigg, we'll keep in contact with you, as we do with all civil defence, and we keep saying the same things over and over again, but that's what happens with radio. The more you hear something, the more it goes in. Thank you for the time that you spent in here at Compass FM.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Compass FM.